Okay, so this is officially podcast number 3. I'm going to call it Better Call Harry podcast number 3, and I've got this really incredible graphic here to mark this occasion, and this is going to be a good one. This is actually Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
I did?
Yeah, that's
all right. So I'm joined today by my executive producer who's making sure that I get all of this right, or I won't be doing these anymore. And Cindy Gatton, who is one of my favorite people to interview since I started in the consumer advocacy business, because you have helped me so much throughout the years, because you specialize in medical insurance. And I know I was going to say exactly what you are, but I'm going to let you say it.
So I'm an independent patient advocate, which means I work for my clients, not for an insurance company, not for a legislative body. I work for my clients.
And so I was thinking this was really important because everything's kind of up in the air right now. There are billions of dollars in debt on people's credit reports, and they were supposed to go away. Now they may not be going away. It's kind of on pause. So we're going to talk about health insurance, and we're going to talk about paying your bills. And this is the kind of stuff that you need to know. And then we're going to talk about you. And I'm having Lindsay here because you're still recovering from an accident. And they actually put a lien, was it on your house?
Couple liens on me.
On you.
Any settlement that I get.
All right, so we'll get to that in a second. But first of all, let's go and talk about this, because things have changed for the better over the years with credit, or with things that have gone into collections, medical bills. They end up on your credit report. You need to buy a car, you want to refinance your house, and boom, there it is. And things got better, and now we're not so sure. So where do things stand right now?
So the first thing for listeners to understand is that the vast majority, not all of it, but the vast majority of medical debt is under $500 that has been reported to one of the credit reporting agencies. They agreed in 2022, starting in 2023, that they would not include that debt anymore, that it would not show up on your credit report.
This is Equifax, Experian,
and
TransUnion.
TransUnion. That's correct. Okay. So if your medical debt is under $500, it won't show up on a credit report. Now, it is important to understand the debt doesn't go away. It's not like the debt's been written off. It's just that it doesn't go on your credit report. And that's important because credit reporting is used for a lot of things that influence what other things might cost. So if you're in that majority with a medical debt below $500, you can rest assured that even though a collection agency might keep trying to collect it, it's not going to be on your credit report.
But if it's over $500, it used to go on your credit report pretty fast, and it would go to collections, and then that changed for the better.
Exactly. So what the credit reporting entities agreed was that if there's medical debt more than $500, a collection agency cannot report it to those entities until it's a year old. So and part of the reason for that is that it can take a while to fix a medical bill. If it's reported incorrectly or insurance hadn't paid something they were supposed to pay, it's important. You need some time to get it sorted out before it would go on your credit report.
And yeah, I mean, it's an unexpected bill. It's not something that any of us planned for, so it's kind of weighed differently. So that's still in place. Like, that hasn't changed with now that the Trump administration is talking about getting rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That doesn't change the fact that the credit reporting agencies have still agreed to stick to, not reporting after a year.
To my knowledge, yes. So what it means is that if you get a medical bill that doesn't look right, or that your insurance hasn't paid properly or whatever, it's important that you don't pay it, but it's also important that you figure out what happened and you begin the process to try to get it sorted out.
But it's great because you've got that year to kind of figure it out and try and negotiate but although let's talk about this, because if you've got a medical bill that's over $500, you were just saying before we started the podcast that you used to be able to negotiate with the hospitals over your bill. And you're saying that's kind of changed.
It's changed because with the Affordable Care Act in place, the number of individuals that don't have insurance has decreased pretty markedly. If you have insurance, you have a contract for the amounts that you have to pay. And theoretically, the insurance companies negotiated on your behalf to get lower rates with hospitals, et cetera. The challenge is that a lot of the individual plans that are out there have very high deductibles, very high out-of-pocket maximums that are still beyond the reach of many individuals. Kind of dovetailing with that, the Affordable Care Act requires hospitals to offer financial assistance plans. Some hospitals are more assertive in letting patients know that those are available, some less so. But it's really important when you're going to try to negotiate with a hospital that you apply for that assistance.
I took your advice on some of that, and I had remember when I contacted you about an MRI?
Yes.
I showed up
yes.
for the MRI, and they had already determined that I needed to pay like $400, and they weren't going to give me the MRI unless I paid on the spot. And I'm like, no, wait a second. Can't I like break this up and wait and see how this processes with insurance? And they said no. But what was your advice to me, and what was your advice to others if something like that happens?
I mean, the challenge with medical insurance is that I jokingly call it sausage making, because it starts at this beginning of the funnel where a hospital will ping your insurance company to see where you are in accruing the amount that you are supposed to pay. But if you are dealing with some medical situation and maybe you had other care a couple days before, that can impact that because there's a time lag. So in your situation, I think we discussed this, that you offer to pay part of it or you wait if it's not an emergency. The problem is for most of us when we're getting health care,
Right.
there's a certain amount of urgency there to get a test done or whatever. And the problem is that once you pay them, it's real hard to get it back if by that point you have met your deductible and the amount you owe is different than what their systems told them when they pinged the system.
You know, I will say this, I was actually kind of pleased because I had to do one of those sleep studies and they wanted $300 something for that. And then I found out that my portion was only like $60, but I'd paid the money. And then I kept trying to get in touch with the sleep study company that mailed me one of these kits.
The at-home kits. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I couldn't reach them. And the only person that I could reach was somebody in scheduling who was like, well, we don't open really because we're overnight until 7. And I'm like, no, I need your billing department. I need you guys to give me my money back that I paid because my insurance company says that I'm only responsible for $60 and yet you charge me this. And I really felt like they were making it difficult for me to
They were.
to get the, well, that's just, they picked the wrong guy. But well, I say that, but I almost gave up because I was like, what am I going to call these people? Because what, they're billing people coming at 9 o'clock at night? Well, eventually they did reverse it. I was very surprised that I looked on my credit card
Yeah.
and I saw that, oh wow, they finally did give me the money back. But yeah, they make it really hard. And then there was another situation where my wife was in the hospital. I know I'm getting middle-aged now. We're just in the hospital or at the you don't know what this is like.
I was
do
going to say,
now.
wait
Oh,
a
actually,
few
you
more
do.
years.
I do
Yeah.
now.
We're going to talk about this in a second. This is the best part of this podcast. Where I immediately got a call why my wife was in a hospital bed with, we didn't know what, it turned out to be sepsis.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, we didn't know how serious it was. And yet I'm sitting next to her in the bed and I get a call from the hospital. I'm not going to say which hospital it was. It was one here in Atlanta. And they're like, well, we need you to pay $2,000. And I thought of you and I'm like, well, that's not going to happen right now. I said, I'll tell you what, let me call you back. And I did call her back. And it's so funny how quickly they are to answer when you want to call and pay a bill. And I don't think that I really had to do this either. Maybe you can correct me, but I offered her, I said, oh, look, I'll pay $1,000 now. Because I know we're going to have to pay towards the
Yeah,
deductible.
yeah.
Anyway, so looked at my bank account. We have $1,000 that we can pay. How's that? Well, that's fine. And she took the $1,000 payment. But could I have said no? I mean, we're in the ER. She'd been admitted and she's receiving care. Could I have just said, call me back later when this is done?
So you said something that's a real important differentiator for that question. In the ER, yes, you can wait because their EMTALA is the legislation that says that an emergency room has to treat you. And if they admit you, then clearly you had an emergency, you had to be treated. You can deal with it after the fact.
And what's EMTALA?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
This is live podcasting here. I got her. Finally got her something she didn't know. But we're gonna find out. We're gonna put it like Luke's gonna put it on the screen.
Perfect,
What it is
perfect.
with a like. All right, let's move on from
So
there.
it's EMTALA for the folks that are going to research it to look it up. And it's legislation that's been around for a long time that says that if you present to an emergency room, you have to be treated, regardless of your ability to pay. So that statute has not gone away. So yes, in the emergency room, you can decline for the person who comes around with a clipboard and says, please give us your credit card. You can say not now.
Okay.
That doesn't count for urgent care, right? That's just
Does not
emergency
count for
room.
urgent
Okay.
care, only an emergency room in a hospital, yes.
Oh, now you're chiming in.
Yeah, of course. I had things.
So we've been waiting for this, the best part of this podcast, because it's such a good story in that this is something that can happen to anybody, and it's a car crash. And Lindsay you got hit from behind?
No.
Or were you kind of like T-boned? Or
Nope.
You got
Keep
hit
going.
from the side?
Nope.
A spaceship landed on
Yes,
your car.
correct.
and
Yeah, it was a spaceship.
Good luck with that lawsuit. All right, so tell Cindy what happened, and let's see where we're going with this, because it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, likelihood of a car accident in Metro Atlanta is high. We all know this, so it impacts a lot of people. I didn't plan on it impacting me, but I was driving home on a Sunday night and wasn't even dark yet, and there was a car on the shoulder of the road, like off in the dirt, not even on like pavement. No hazards, no blinker, just pulled right out as I was passing. So I hit them, but they came into the lane improperly, as the police said. But I was taken by ambulance to a local hospital, never been in a car accident, never been in a fender bender, never had anything with car insurance, never had a claim in my life, in my 30s. So this was all foreign to me. I was just like, I have car insurance, I should be covered. It was his fault, he should, whatever. Hospital bills, so I ended up breaking my hand, dislocating my elbow, injuring my pinky, and had hospital bill, ambulance bill, and an arm specialist after that. And yeah, so then was flooded with hospital, medical bills. And where do we want to go from there? What's your question?
Well, no, you didn't. But the thing is that you didn't know, and then the bills started coming in, and then you went and you got an attorney.
Yes.
But even with the attorney, things were. Was the other driver not? They didn't have enough coverage for you.
Didn't have enough coverage. Had coverage, but not enough. So
Would they have like $25,000?
$25,000 in injury coverage.
And
so
what was your bill?
I can't even tell you. It was more than that.
Okay.
Between mine, I had a $6,000 deductible. So out of pocket, right there, all of the costs added up to that. Hit the deductible, but still had bills that didn't. I don't know. It was very confusing. But I just kept getting bills. I'm an educated person. I was like, let me look up, let me figure out. I have Harry, let me ask Harry. Like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I don't know where I'm at. Like, and everybody said, hire a personal injury attorney. I'm like, I've never even hired an attorney before. So ended up a friend's dad was a very well-known attorney. So he said, this is what I need from you. This is the process. Because I said, I don't even know I couldn't even figure out the driver's name. I didn't even know who the other driver was because I was taken by ambulance. So I had to file records requests, which I know how to do, luckily, because I'm an investigative journalist, to get the record to even know who the other driver was. Because there was a witness on scene who spoke to police, told them what happened. So I didn't even talk to police when it happened because I was so far out of it. They were putting fentanyl, the proper amount, in me. So I was
The amount that actually just takes away the
what
pain.
you're supposed to have, and taken by ambulance. So I had no idea what happened after that. I didn't know where my car was. I didn't know who the driver was. I didn't know if they were injured. I said, are they okay? What, like, I don't know. The police report told me who it was. And so then my attorney was like, let me track down who their insurance is, so I'm like, do I call the insurance? Do I call this person? Do I call my insurance? I don't know. And luckily my attorney worked it out, but then we found out he was underinsured, which turns out is a very common thing that I didn't know. So it would not pay all of my medical bills, but on top of that, I didn't have the proper insurance. I found out during this, I didn't have the extra coverage of under or uninsured driver. Now I have it. It's $5 extra a month in my car insurance.
Wow.
Anything that his insurance didn't cover, mine would have picked it up if I had that coverage.
So everybody outside of this, I mean, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, that's a
having
whole
the
thing.
proper
Wow.
auto insurance
Yeah.
coverage.
Yeah.
But tell us what happened with the liens
Yeah.
on you.
On a settlement that I could get. So when my lawyer came back and said, $25,000 is all you're going to get. That's his injury coverage. That's what you're going to get. In cases like this, we would go after the individual. Well, this individual has nothing to his name. He doesn't have another car. He doesn't have wages to garnish. He has nothing. It will be a waste of your time. If you want to, we can pursue this. We can go after, but I don't think you're going to get anything. And I said, let's just get what we can get. I just want to be done with it. This was June, so we're now 9 months later, still dealing with this, and finally just got a settlement agreement of the $25,000. But then during that, I was like, great, $25,000 will at least pay the majority of my bills that I still have payments on, to the hospital, to the arm specialist.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
What part of that did your attorney get?
So 30% of the 25. So when we're talking about that, I agreed because I didn't know. I had attorneys calling me after the accident over and over. And I'm like, do I need an attorney? What? And they were like, oh yeah, we only do 45%, 42%. And I'm like taking all these notes like, I don't know anything about their cut. What should they get? And that's when I went through a friend whose father, and he said 30%, I'm not going to overcharge you, like 30%. And I'm like, great, that's way better than 45. I'll take that.
You know what I realize here, in just telling this whole story, people who get into accidents and every single day in Atlanta have so much to deal with before they even get to the medical bill part of what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do I do? How is this going to be covered? Do I have enough? And then you've got people, the hospital saying, pay us. And I guess, what's the question here that I want to ask? What do you do in a situation like this when you're getting calls from the medical provider, or you're getting the bill saying you owe this now, but you still haven't settled the claim with, the insurance company, or your attorney's got the case? I mean, what do you tell them?
Harry, one of the things that I love about what you do is the educational aspect of this, because automobile accidents are like a category all unto themselves in terms of how our very messed up healthcare system deals with those bills. And I've never understood why somebody hasn't taken that on to figure it out, because in a motor vehicle accident, medical bills, there is no fee schedule. So we've talked about this in some different things before, but most health insurance companies have negotiated, there's a retail rate that you get billed, and there's a wholesale rate that the insurance company has agreed to, and it's usually a pretty significant discount. When it's an automobile accident, there's only retail. There is no fee negotiation. The auto insurance companies pay what is billed.
Really?
And
They don't get.
they don't get a discount. So some of them may be getting around to that, but there generally is no discount, which is why most hospitals have a separate unit that pursues motor vehicle accidents because it's very lucrative for a hospital, even though, especially like in your case, it can take a long time before the settlement is actually reached. And many times the settlement isn't going to cover all the bills. And that's when it gets really messy, because then, and only then, will your health insurance kick in. Because they don't want to pay. If there's a motor vehicle accident and there's auto insurance involved, your health insurance company doesn't want to have to pay that. So I think the educational takeaway from this, if there is such a thing, is that if you're in a motor vehicle accident and there are injuries, just know that this isn't like any other way that you're going to deal with medical bills.
So, do you? I mean, I have health insurance through my employer, and I'm in a car wreck. I don't know whose fault it is at the moment I'm in the accident. I mean, my thought would be at the beginning of this to give them my insurance information.
And you should.
You
You
should.
should, because eventually they'll get to that.
Right.
But the top of the funnel is going to be dealing with the auto insurance before it's ever going to get down to your health insurance.
So, should Lindsay be saying to anybody who's trying to collect, and now that they've put a lien on her settlement, hey, this isn't settled yet?
So this is it's interesting, because these units that are trying to collect on these bills, they put a lien because they want to make sure that they get paid. So it's not personal.
Yeah.
I mean, she could have just taken the money and gone on a trip to,
Exactly. And so that's why, I mean, it's a legal maneuver, but that's why, that they put the lien on the settlement to make sure that they get their share. So say it's not personal, but it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's still terrifying.
Well, I didn't know what a lien was. And when my attorney said, well, your health insurance has a lien on any settlement you get. And I
Right.
said, because they want some of what they paid back.
That's right.
And then
Oh, your health insurance.
My health insurance.
Our health insurance.
Our health insurance put a lien on me for any settlement I get.
Right.
And then when my attorney was looking at, also got a lien from the hospital, also got a lien from the arm specialist to get back some of what they think they are owed. Well, they paid in for my care. So it comes down to, okay, the $25,000, take off the attorney fees, $8,000, take off the lien to my insurance, the lien to the hospital,
Yeah.
lien to the arm specialist, and I'm left with 10 grand, which is fantastic to get anything at this point because I've been dealing with this for so long, but it doesn't pay even what I have paid in.
All right,
So-
let's finish up with this.
Yeah.
So she's got
Please.
leftover. Well, you've got leftover bills. Any idea how much you're going to be out of pocket at this point?
I have it written down. What my
I mean, are we in
attorney
the
told
thousands?
me. Oh, we're in the thousands.
So what does
Yeah.
she? So what does she do in that case? Does she say to them, "I need a payment plan"?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the point at which you can apply for financial assistance. Hard to do with doctors for the specialists that took care of you, but certainly for the hospital. But if you explain to a physician's office, to their billing department, that this was the result of an accident, this is the settlement, here's what my health insurance paid, here's what I can afford, they may very well negotiate with you.
Yeah, and that's what I did when I had gotten the attorney. I said, what do I do with all of these bills that are stacking up? He said, get the lowest payment plan for all of them. And so I'm still on the payment plan for each of the bodies that, sent me bills, except for the ambulance bill. That was the one they would not take a payment plan. They would not negotiate down like a cash out price. And so I said, then you're not getting anything. I don't have $2,400 just sitting in an account to pay an ambulance bill. And that brings me to my question about credit and collections agency. So I told him, I said, then you're not getting anything because I have all these other bills that gave me a payment plan. And so I let it go to collections.
Oh wait, Luke, can you actually edit in an alarm sound right here?
Collections.
Can- don't, yeah, okay. I'm gonna let her chime in on, I'm gonna let
Yeah.
Cindy chime in
Yeah.
on that.
Well, I let it go to collections, but the week it went to collections, which was the week after Christmas, I think like the week of Christmas, I called them and they negotiated it down for me. They said, we'll give you 30% off if you pay it. And I was like, oh, great. Can you do more? And they said we could do 50%. So when it went to collections, I was able, because I was like, I can pay 50% right now. Like I've been saving, I can, but they wouldn't let me negotiate with the ambulance company, but collections did, and it didn't hit my credit yet. Will it hit my credit?
Well, let me first just say, Lindsay, you're my consumer negotiating medical bills heroine, whatever the right way is to say that. You know, the one thing about medical bills is that once the billing entity says, all right, we tried to collect on this and we're not getting anywhere, and they hand it over to a collection agency, the collection agency gets paid a percentage of what they collect, and they know they're not going to get the whole bill. So you were incredibly wise to let it go to collections, because collections agencies will negotiate to get a payment because they know that the majority of the bills that they get, they will never collect anything on. So for someone like you who says, okay, well, what about half? Because you've got a settlement and you've got some things that you're working with, that's brilliant. And that's the right way to do it. I will just say though, for many people, it's really uncomfortable
To let it go to
Yeah. To
collections.
to let it go
Yeah.
to collections and then to stand up for yourself in that process. So brava.
Thank you.
Yeah, and people need to know that when it does go to collections, because of that rule of not hitting your credit report for a year, you do have time.
got
Yes,
time.
it's in collections, but it's not going to appear on your credit report as having gone to collections until after a year, and that's over $500.
Yeah, and Harry, let me say one other thing about that, because collection agencies have a job to do, and they're relentless in trying to do their job. So they will call you, and all that information that got provided on your ambulance report is available to them, your home address, you know, whatever else. So they're relentless. You can, by law, tell them to stop calling you, that the only thing that they can do is send you mail. And that's important because the calls unnerve people. They can call you at work, they can call you at home. They got a computer. They can look and see all kinds of things about you and where they can track you down. So if that is obnoxious or not something you want to deal with, you simply tell them, please stop calling me.
You just approved a script for that. That was the it went to collections for the timeshare story,
Yeah.
which we're also going to put a link to right here, right? Lee? It's called a drop dead letter. That's a whole other story. Anything that you want to add before we wrap this up? Anything you want to add before we wrap this up?
I think just let's wrap up with what do people, overarching, medical bills are a scary thing. It's terrifying. What's the biggest thing you want people to know?
You know, there's an individual who's done an enormous amount of work in this space, a gentleman by the name of Marshall Allen, and he wrote an amazing book called Never Pay the First Bill. Mr. Allen actually passed away very suddenly last year, but there's a whole institute being built with his materials about how to navigate medical billing. So I'm going to piggyback on the title of his book, Never Pay the First Bill. And know that there are resources out there to get help, to educate, and to help make someone as confident as you were in negotiating your situation.
I'm really good at not paying the first bill.
Way to go, Harry.
I'm not. That's terrifying.
It is. It is terrifying. But Lindsay, I think your story is really powerful about why it's important not to do that. It's okay to let a little bit of time lapse. At the same time, I would say don't ignore it, because a lot of people will
Right.
just push it someplace else. Don't ignore it, but never pay the first bill.
All right, we're going to do this again, and next time we'll bring back a story or two from one of our viewers.
Sure.
We can look at this and say, okay, how do we deal with this? Great information, Cindy and Lindsay and Luke, who's going to put his hand in front of the camera and wave hello. There's a thumbs up. So it's Better Call Harry podcast number 3, but it's really Atlanta News First investigates behind the investigation.
Yes, and we'll have all of the resources that Cindy was talking about on AtlantaNewsFirst.com.
Oh, AtlantaNewsFirst.com. Well, but the whole thing about, and you can listen to this wherever you get your podcast.
Yep, you can watch this on any streaming platform. You can watch us on YouTube. You can go to AtlantaNewsFirst.com. Yeah, all the places.
This is why I brought you. Thank you. All right,
It's
we're gonna
always a
end. We're gonna
pleasure.
end with this.